I'm very pleased to do that. Pleased to be again and interacting with Wynton. The first time I did that, it was in 1982. You
Oh,
were probably, and we did that many times since. But well,
I remember. Shh.
okay. So so I'm very pleased to do that because it's a sort of dream come true through my personal life. Gathering symphonic classical world from Occident and the great African American experience in music since the beginning of modernity is merging now. It was for a long time parallel and it began to merge maybe 50 years ago, or maybe more than that. And it became a reality now because we have one of the most accomplished trumpet improviser at the same time becoming also a great composer and having a great relationship with a conductor, a soloist, and also I know that Wynton, you did that since the beginning of your career, but this time as a composer, you're involved and integrated to this world. So how do you see it yourself?
Well, I see everything as a circle. What I'm doing, musicians have done before, and I try to just add to that circle. And what we all do when we come together, it's like I say in life when we meet people. If you've come from a family, you've been a son or a daughter, and you have the opportunity to be a mother, then you're a grandmother, and then sometimes you're great grandmother, grandfather, and then you pass away. It's all a cycle. And I don't see it with that much separation. Everything is very natural. Paul and I, being trumpet players, of course, we have a tradition that we share. That tradition was established long before we were born, and we live inside of it and add to what we can. And I try to become everything with a humility and a gratitude about doing it, and let that humility and gratitude show in the amount of work and the seriousness that I'm willing to address it with, and fulfill the dreams of my father and the other great teachers I've had.
Exactly. And now, well, we have to focus on this special piece, which is a great accomplishment. I just did see the version of Hakan Anderberger with the VFO. It's been performed a few days ago in Verbier under the direction of Christoph Eschenbach. And I saw that on Medici TV, so I have an idea of the piece, the whole piece. Now we have three versions. The third is going to happen. There was a Cleveland one with Michael Sachs, and there's now the poor Merkelo with Rafael Payare. So there are three visions already happening. So maybe we could talk about the third vision. This
Right.
one, Rafael and Paul could talk about that.
Yeah, well, Paul has been preparing this, so I'm sure that Paul will have some things to say about it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's a great honor and privilege to do this concerto. It's, when we work on new music, it's always an adaptation over time, getting to know it better and practicing the advanced techniques that are needed. And in this particular concerto, there are a lot of advanced techniques that are needed to put the language together in the right way. But beyond that, I really enjoy playing the piece, and it's been a real joy to work on it and to get the story of this piece out, because there's so much variety in it. There's such a mixture of styles and colors that there's a wide range of emotions in the piece. And it's really a privilege in the 6 movements, 35-minute concerto to basically give the history of the trumpet and all of its different stylings that Wynton wrote in such a genius way.
Rafael, now, how did you see this piece? You worked on it. You've chosen it. You did the choice of making one of the biggest event of this festival, who started yesterday and going through until Sunday. So there was something there.
No, I'm really, really, really happy. I mean, I remember talking to Paul when he was saying like, well, Wynton is starting to write up concerto for the trumpet concerto, and it's like, what? I mean, if we can actually be able to bring it in here, it will be fantastic. And all the stars aligned. And I was absolutely sure that it was going to be an absolute hit. I mean, his violin concerto is amazing as well. And it is fantastic how he uses the orchestra, the orchestration, the colors, all of the different kind of, it's, you could see it's like a voyage, and you just get in different things, and you have these smells and different lights and colors. You could find yourself in a room, and you know that maybe the room has a little bit of smoke with the light is slightly different, and then you open the window and it's a little bit of fresh air. It's fantastic. It's really, really wonderful. We're having a great time.
Excellent. Wynton, you built it on 6 movement. So march, ballad, a love feeling, Mexican song, exuberant way, blues, introspective, French pastoral, and harlequin, capricious. So can you comment a little about this construction and the way you wanted to uh, expand your palette through this piece?
Well, each movement is a deals with the characteristic of our instrument, and it's the intensity thematic relationships. Just with these pieces, you have melody, harmony, rhythm, texture, and you always balance in the four. You create an ecosystem, and try to balance that ecosystem and bring back themes in different times, and use as little thematic material as you can use, but expand and show the personalities of those themes in different ways. With me, the added incentive is to always uh, welcome the audience into things that we do in a very basic and down home way, because I'm from New Orleans. And being a trumpet player, I just try to deal with aspects of our tradition and great trumpet players and great trumpet music that Paul and I know very intimately. Everything from the impetus of the Haydn trumpet concerto, to go from playing just fanfare passages to lyrical passages, to the extended techniques of 20th century trumpet. Of course, many of the jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong, studio trumpeters like Conrad Gazzo gave us. And when you get to the fifth movement, it's more like elements of a French trumpet school that we also all know about in books like the Charlier Etude book and the French Conservatory School that we all grew up in. The first pistons that were put on bugles were done in France. And then there's also the Jewish tradition of trumpet in America. Ziggy Elman is a fantastic trumpet player that played with Benny Goodman's orchestra. And also for us contemporaries, the great Lou Soloff was a mentor of mine and all the trumpet players, one of the most collegial, greatest trumpet players ever. Rafael Mendez and the tradition in the South. There's also a lot of great Brazilian trumpet players right now. I didn't write a thing that is Brazilian in its way, but I dealt with the Southern Hemisphere. I always do, because Mendez's trumpet playing had a great influence on all of the trumpet players of a certain generation. And then, with ballad playing, everything deals with aspects of our playing. It's all things Paul knows, and for me, everything is to be as collegial with my pieces and as natural, and to not act like I'm just trying to talk to a few people that are scientists in music and we have an inside joke that we're playing on the people. I'm always trying to figure out how to invite people into the music and to let my sophistication lead me down that path, and to have the humility of trying to write something that can be substantive, but also a person of good faith can, with some work, listen to it and say, okay, I wasn't that bored by that.
Yeah, and the way you build your music, even not only written but also improvised with the Jazz and Lincoln Center since decades now, is always a sort of synthesis of history. But in your way, your perception of history is always happening through your pieces. And this time, again, we see some elements of different phases of trumpet playing, of making music, of having a sort of dance between jazz and classical music.
Yeah, well, jazz, all the musics of the world are connected in ways if you get close enough to the roots of things. It's pentatonic scales, marches, drones, call and responses, lyrical passages, and flutes have their personality and drums have theirs, and trumpets have our personality. That's why we started with the elephant. But I don't know. When Paul and I discussed, we went through all of the themes of the first movement just to talk about this kind of thematic consistency. And he has observations. He's making about the music. And I think I also want it to be fun for him to play. I don't want him to get something and look at it and be like, damn, I got to play this. I've been there too, because I play solos where I want to really play it, but the part is so hard in every measure that it's like, man, you know, it's like I'm getting an invasive physical exam every measure of this piece. And I just sit here and read a magazine for a little while.
Yeah. How do you see it, Paul? You know, you're a classical trumpet player. You're obviously interested to contemporary jazz and modern forms of improvisation music from the great African American tradition. So, how do you see it as a soloist in a classical context?
Well, if, actually, Wynton and I spoke about another aspect that I will share, if you don't mind, Wynton. Wynton challenged me to actually go through the part and sing and dance through the majority of the piece, which I sing in the practice room poorly. I sing through stuff when I want to prepare things, but I've never really moved and danced and sang at the same time. And I did it. Okay, Wynton, I did it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, man.
I did
We
it.
need
I
proof,
did
though.
Send me
We
the
need
video.
proof. We
it.
exactly.
No.
We need
You
to
won't see a
see
video
that.
of that.
Right.
Now,
We need to see it.
my daughter would be very happy to see me do that, but I was hiding in the basement. So, but Elaine, to answer your question, I mean, there's so many elements of this concerto that I love, but when we talk about the rhythmic element, and Wynton and I spoke at length about the first movement, there's all these 3 against 2. There's all these typical fanfare qualities that, of course, you would expect from the trumpet, but they're interspersed with this beautiful lyricism. And Wynton referenced the Haydn concerto and the Hummel concerto too. That's a lot of fanfare versus lyrical in the first movement. And so it shows this range of emotion that the trumpet is capable of doing that, some audiences, they don't think that we're capable of doing that. So I think the responsibility lies a lot in the lyricism, to play really connected and very smooth, like a singer. And that doesn't matter if you're playing in a classical manner or more of a jazz manner. You have to sing, and you have to sing with expression and with phrasing, and the way Wynton writes, it's just easy to interpret that, and it's really enjoyable, really, really fun, because he understands the depth and lyricism that the instrument's capable of doing.
Are also huge challenges for a trumpet player as a soloist in this piece. So you have to face it when you're dancing and singing.
And to Wynton's point, again, I mean, it's the third movement. It's this is the homage to Mexican tradition and Spanish sounds that there's, especially the tempos that he wrote. Now, I'm not at the tempo that Wynton sent the MIDI file.
They're not written right. Those are not the right tempos. They need to be slower.
But I mean, we're moving.
It shouldn't be 108. It should be 104, 100. Just make it comfortable. Those tempos are not right.
I have to say that when I think about it in more of a dance-like manner and flowing and singing, just how to produce a double tongue, if you try to make it rigid and it becomes vertical, and it's very difficult to play. Even if it's clean, it doesn't sound beautiful. So that fluidity comes from making it more dance-like. And if I can channel that on Saturday, I'll be very happy.
You're going to channel it.
And the accompaniment, Rafael, there's many ways to back a soloist in a piece. So this time, how did you figure how to put the orchestra behind Paul?
Well, no, it's fantastic, because the thing that Wynton has an ability, because of the great artist that he is, he doesn't make the accompaniment just to be, an accompaniment that is not doing something. He also pushed the boundary of the orchestra to in a very virtuosic way, so no one can be just, waiting for the next bar to do something. Everybody needs to be completely engaged all the time, and there are many things happening, and it's really fun. It's fantastic. We did a lot of work on Saturday. We did about 4.5 hours of rehearsal, going really, really different things. Let's change this. Let's have this is not the character, the coloring here, that, and now, hopefully we will deliver on Saturday. I'm sure we will. Yeah.
Were there some special challenges to try to find the best balance between the soloist and the orchestra in this context, and also respectful with the chart?
You oh well, it's just of course it's a new piece, so it's more important. What we did in the rehearsal period was okay. Let's run it through. Let's put it together vertically. Okay, now we are all together there. Now we need to be. It needs to be horizontal. Just let it be. Don't. Oh, it says fortissimo. I need to. No, just let it flow. Let it really go for it. That is still struggling with the third movement, I have to say though. But it is it is really hard.
Okay. And Wynton, do you think you're it's a sort of transcription of your imaginary as a jazz player. So now you're in written music sometimes. It's not necessarily the goal, the ultimate goal at all. Improvisation music is as important as rhythm music for me, and for you, of course. But this time, how do you feel, being in this world as a composer? I know you've been as an interpret and a soloist since your teenage years, but now, how do you see this switch?
First, it's no switch for me. It's
Okay, it's
no
not
big.
switch, yeah.
There's no switch. There's no African American trumpet. I had white trumpet teachers. I had
Okay,
black trumpet teachers. I had white trumpet teachers. I learned Arbon Book like Paul did. I learned Max Schlossberg like Paul did. We played the same pieces, Pictures Exhibition, Mahler 5. We could go down the list of trumpet excerpts. Of course, some have been added over the last 40 years, but
yeah,
the pieces that are difficult for Paul to play, they were difficult for me to play, they were difficult for my teachers to play. I taught thousands of students over the year. I never taught them Afro-American trumpet or white American trumpet. I
yeah.
taught
You don't
trumpet.
see it that way.
And the traditions are combined. I played in an orchestra. I played Mahler's second in an orchestra when I was 15. And I remember seeing all the people on the stage saying, damn, I never imagined anything that big. I played Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in my first orchestra I ever played, and then I was 13. And a guy called me a brother with only two black people in the orchestra. He said, man, we down here with the Civic Orchestra playing in the Jewish Community Center, and I'm the only brother down here. It was a night that there was Monday Night Football on in America. And I said, man, I'm looking at Monday Night Football. He said, man, the timpanist is the weatherman. So it's a Civic Orchestra. And we loved our weatherman in that time. I said, the weatherman's playing timpani. Damn, I got to get down there. I went to the Jewish Community Center. We started playing Beethoven's 5. And I realized, man, this guy wrote all of this music. But my father was a music teacher. So the thought that I'm sitting up wondering at 61 about orchestra or written music, I played written music my whole life. It was never juxtaposed to improvised music. We come from a tradition that is expansive. And I met with Paul. We talked on the phone. Not one time did we say, Afro-American trumpet or improvisation or classical music is music. We have to play, we read music and we play it. If we play in studios, we play it. If you improvise and there's some changes, you play on them. So it's not my first orchestra piece I wrote. I was, maybe 20, I was 28 years old. That's not a good piece, but that's how old I was. Now I'm 61. So, you know what I mean? It's not, I've been writing pieces for orchestra that have been being played since 1998. So it's, and this is a collaborative process. I'm interested to hear what they do, and we all work on different people's music. In this point, it's my music. Paul and they've played a lot of music. There's gonna be some more music next week, and we bring the same thing to all the music that we play and whoever's music it is. We're all a part of a big ecosystem that goes on and continues. And for us, and certainly for me, and I know I'm speaking for my other gentlemen too, just by how they are in their spirit. We're honored to be a part of the world of music and to be able to bring music to people. We want to be on the highest level we can be on, but we have a certain a brotherhood, and by that I don't mean not a sisterhood. It's just we're all brothers on this particular call. But it's the world of music that encompasses so many people and so many styles, and they're not segregated in the way that they are because they're marketed a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's very well put. So, what can we add to that? It's very, this is the perfect, maybe the only thing we could add is someday you will be able to attract some classical soloists to improvise in a classical context. It will happen someday.
They're doing it now. There's pieces where
Yeah.
classical soloists improvise.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody does what they do. You know, I always laugh when somebody, if somebody can do something, and then when you finish doing what you can do, somebody says, well, what about, it's like you come to my house and I fix you a whole meal, I got feijoada, and I got all this Brazilian food, and then at the end of it, I look at you and I eat and I drinking my caipirinha, and we listen to Brazilian music, and then I look at you and say, hey man, what about some gumbo? Hey man, we just what we make here.
Yeah.
You know, well, I really like sushi, but yeah, okay, you know, but this, so it's like the ever ending banquet is the request for, can you do more? Well, yeah, you know, maybe.
So cool. Well, I thank you very much, Wynton. It's very generous from you. Thank you, Rafael. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
It's been a great conversation. I'm very pleased to have been involved in that.
Yeah, thank you, Rafael. Paul, man, it's such an honor to see y'all. Alain, love always.
Love always.
Thank you, Wynton, for writing a tremendous concerto. I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you. I want to get that tape of you dancing. Rafael wants it too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I want to see it.
No.
We need
We
evidence.
want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll try to
All
dance
right,
to the trumpet on Saturday.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
So,
man.
have a good evening, gentlemen. Have a good day,
All right.
Wynton.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
you're right.
Great job,
Respect.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Much respect.